Greetings. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is an update about the situation in Ukraine between NATO and Russia. An update on the ICBM attack that Russia performed this morning. Apparently, the weapon that was used was MIRV, which means it had multiple warheads. None of them were nuclear, of course. Now, this type of weapon, according to Ukrainian sources, official military sources, was either a Yars or what is called an RS-26 Rubez. It's a mobile missile. It's not one of these monsters that are sitting in a silo. These are long-range and medium-range ballistic missiles, but they're mobile. They're on trucks. There's the ones that you see in the parades that they do in Moscow every year or so. The amount of damage is not yet known, not yet being reported. There are a lot of photographs being sent around, some video. It seems to have been significant, but this war has had nothing but ongoing destruction, so it's hard to gauge it compared to other types of weapons used. Again, other types of missiles were also employed, including those launched from aircraft. Now, this thing is showing signs of spreading. Russia is, I wouldn't say rattling their sabers, I'd say they have their sabers out. It's been pointed out by Russian authorities that there is what they call a priority strike target in Poland, namely an anti-missile base near the Polish town of Redzikowo. I believe that's how it's pronounced. This is an anti-missile facility run by NATO, and they're publicly talking about this as something as a target, which is a little ominous. So they are basically pointing out what they're going to do if things keep being escalated. The Russian Foreign Ministry now is also claiming that Moldova has become what they are terming a NATO logistical hub. And they are warning that this could bring that country into a war with Russia directly. There is something that is quite significant that I was picking up on yesterday, but I was getting the news from the dark web. That's actually a place, if you know where to go, you can find an awful lot of information that is hitting there first because of where it comes from. And this is about the Chinese ships that were spotted near the location of where those communication cables were cut not too far from Denmark. Now, we're getting reports that Danish ships have, in fact, stopped a Chinese ship suspected of sabotage. This is very significant because if that is the case, that means that China would somehow be involved in this growing turmoil. I can't imagine a privately owned Chinese ship going out and hacking up cables underneath the water, unless they were doing it to harvest the copper, which is another story. But I don't think that's the case. Again, this is a ship that was suspected of that sort of involvement. We don't have the official report yet. And one more thing that is being reported, which, well, depending on who you want to believe, but there are some politicians in Ukrainian circles that are saying that the Ukrainian president is going to be asking the U.S. for Tomahawk missiles. That's right, Tomahawk cruise missiles. Why on earth would the U.S. consider that? It's not official, but that's a story to continue watching. Do look out for what's going on with this Chinese ship that the Danish Navy has grabbed. Now, there's no other sign that there's going to be more ICBMs launched. There was no technical reason to do it. It was certainly not a cheap exercise on the part of the Russian government or Mr. Putin, but it was quite obvious to all concerned it was a shot across the bow, so to speak. Unfortunately, There doesn't seem to be anybody in charge in the United States. It doesn't seem to be there is a president that is functional. We really have no clue as to who's pulling the strings behind the scene, if anyone is at all. This is, of course, a very worrying situation, but the best thing to do is just to watch and wait and hope that we do have some people in the U.S. military and especially the NATO chain of command who will not let things go overboard. The same could be said, of course, for the Russian chain of command. That's it for now. I will fill you in as more details are made available. If you wish to contact me, I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. And of course, this podcast originates on Substack, aureliancolumn.substack.com. Thank you, and I will be filling you in as details are made available.